Welcome back, esports fans. It's the final week here at the Midwest Esports Conference, and that makes us a little bit sad. But it also means that playoffs is just around the corner, and that makes us very, very excited, especially with the matchup that we have for you tonight. I'm Audio. Joining me tonight is a man who needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. He is one of the best casters I've ever had the pleasure of working with, and a good friend of mine, Rebel Fox. And he's going to help lead us in tonight with this must-win match for both Illinois College and Drury Esports.
You're too kind, Mr. Audio. That kind of introduction wasn't necessary, as you'd said so ahead of time. But yeah, you
But I
pointed
did
it out
anyway.
directly last week, and we happen to have the two teams vying for a final playoff spot. The story couldn't have possibly been written any better. I don't know who scheduled this, but they're a large-brained genius, perhaps close to, if not only slightly above that of my own intellect. I can't believe that. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that is the case. So.
Garrett leaked the script, and it's Drury Esports in a chance to make it into the playoffs. Now, this is a team that we've been really watching close this season because they've had a lot of roster changes and have really been almost the golden guardians of the Midwest Esports Conference if you follow the LCS, and the fact that they are a much more developmental team than the rest of the squads. Grandview's got their stacked roster up there at the top, but Drury Esports coming in with their freshman ADC and Cinemonster never before had competitive experience. This is his debut and has been holding on okay, but I'm really interested to see how he's going to hold up tonight against Kingme, this new ADC for Illinois College. He has just been the rock that I think IC have really needed to take them from being a Prankuru only team to a really well-rounded team, and someone that I thought was actually going to be competing for one of those top spots. But now we find tied with Drury and trying to avoid that one elimination spot from playoffs.
From Drury, and especially what you told me about what happened last season, switching around their roster, making sure everyone's in positions that they feel the most comfortable playing in, bringing in this very young kind of support now because it looks like Shallow's taking back that ADC role as we'd seen in previous seasons. And like you said, this bottom lane should be an interesting one to watch with King Me coming into the later stages. You talked about his influence across the map. I also think over the course of time, Savara has slowly become a lot more consistent when it comes to his champions. They've been able to play through that mid lane. Things like the Anivia have really kind of changed the landscape of what this team looks like in the right situations. And so, like you said, Prankuru at the beginning of the split, it was pretty much all through him. They played around one of their better players. Now across the entire map, there's threats everywhere to work with Illinois College as they're coming into this final week. I think, of course, we both consider them to be the team that we see to be favorites in this one. But again, Drury hasn't been defeated by every single team. They're coming out with a win in this week, and they're not ready to just give up immediately against the side of Illinois College. And both of them want to make it into playoffs, even if it means playing up against perhaps the number one seed in Grandview. They both would love to get into that position to start with.
I say that's a couple more games on stage. That's more experience for your players, and who doesn't love to play a little bit more of League of Legends at the end of the day? We're going to get right into the draft for game number one, though. Drury University paying their dues and banning away the Seraphine on red side. Illinois College, thankfully, has been one of the teams in the MEC that goes to that Seraphine if it's left on the table.
Yeah, which is why, more impressively, we actually see it on red side. I swear the number of times that we see teams at every single level in any different tournament ban it on blue side because they just don't play it enough, they don't practice it enough. It's a pain, man. It's an absolute pain. And it's good to see that finally comes out. And a number of supports being taken off the board here, making sure not to let Goella onto anything that's going to help them out or any sort of flex pick, as the Karma and the Seraphine both adept supports, but also can be moved around the map pretty well as well.
Yeah, I think Illinois College know that they've got just the level difference in the top lane. Prankuru being one of their star players for so long, and especially Baymax, newer to the role, swapping over from that mid lane from last season, has been coming into his own quite well, though. I think Drury, more surprisingly, over the last couple weeks, have found a carry in Baymax, and although he started off on these picks like the Shen and more tanky supportive styles, he then swapped over to picks like the Darius and started just stomping on kids in the top lane. However, Prankuru is a different story. He's one of the best top laners we have here in the MEC, and that may not be a very easy task. So I wouldn't be surprised if Drury kind of default back to the draft style they had before, which was securing a very safe top laner blind for Baymax, and it is going to be the Gnar picked up for them right away. So they're not going to get the counter pick option. That will go over to IC.
In terms of how safe the champion is, I don't think Nara is the epitome of safety, but in terms of strength, it's absolutely something that teams have been able to go to for a little while
Comfort
at least,
rather.
being able to. It is that. I want to point something to the bans here because we had no really interesting bans. We see like Tristana, Caitlyn, which have both been popping up a lot more. Actually, again, a Skarner. The big thing I wanted to note was I think this is the first time in like a season and a half we got no jungle bans. I don't think I've seen a no jungle ban in the longest time. We didn't have Udyr, we didn't have Olaf, we didn't have Graves, we didn't have like Nidalee, we didn't have Elise, we didn't have Lilia. We had nothing that's been banned over the course of the last few years, which is why you're getting these super high tier junglers in Udyr and Skarner coming out today.
And you know what that means, Rebel? Turbo Chemting. We're going to see it everywhere
So
this
many
game.
of them.
Illinois College picking up the dive buddies as they grab Camille and Galio to round out their comp. Already, that is going to give them backline access whenever and wherever they want it. And you can see Drury smartly picking up the Xayah in response, one of the few ADCs that can deal with that backline dive on her own.
As it comes to the champion pool that's remaining here for ADC, Xayah is arguably the most safe. So if you're looking for IC and what they're likely to go to, you'd think because Ezreal, Caitlyn, Tristana off the board, Kai'Sa's got to be one, Samira's got to be another consideration if you're still playing that champion, which a lot of people have just abandoned it even after some of the buffs. Nobody's really playing it, making sure that you can go for it. But matching this dive, I think, with your ADC is big as well. Misfortune's another potential champion to throw into this pool because there's just nothing safe left. You can't match this Xayah's laning phase and then go for like support versus support combat across the map, I don't think, anymore. So now you just want to play up the fact that you got Udyr running in, Camille, Galio combined, and trying to attack this backline as fast as possible.
Tell me this, Rebel. 5 bot lane bans in the first round, and Rel still needs to be banned in round 2. She made it this far down the draft. Is not going to be picked up, though, as the Rel and Alistar coming in as bans. Illinois College, they're not shy. We know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to target that new player, Cinemonster, down there in the support role. Swapped, as you said, with Shallow, who has been a bit more of a veteran player for Drury, has stuck around a little bit longer. And what's he gonna play now? I mean, there's so many picks off the table. What do you think they reach for next?
Oh, this is...
I guess
I don't love the Nautilus. Yeah, there it is right there. I don't love the Nautilus just because I don't think it's perfect in terms of strength compared to you look at like Alistar and Thresh and Rel and just how amazing they are right now. And then you look at Nautilus and Nautilus is just like, there's nothing else. I guess we take Nautilus. And there's so many other pocket picks I think that come in. But given the fact that Cinemonster has kind of been relegated to the support role relatively recently in competitive play, it's not shocking to see something pretty easy to play. It's like Nautilus, you hook, you press your ultimate key, you press your W. You don't have to go crazy on anything. The response is Rakan. It's not as punishable as something like Thresh or Blitzcrank or Rel or Alistar would be into the Rakan, but at minimum, it's a good enough matchup here for Cinemonster to be fine in the laning phase.
Illinois College, the Kai'Sa is still on the table. The Sivir would also be a very good pick with these dive buddies, but honestly, I think that Kai'Sa would just be the perfectly shaped puzzle piece to fit into this composition, able to just jump in the backline with the rest of their team, and I can't believe that pick made it so far down the draft as being one of the premier ADCs and having, again, 5 bot lane bans in the first round of ban phase. Illinois College feels like they walked away with an absolute steal in this composition.
That they did. And it's interesting because, like, you look at Drury's second round bans and you go Orianna Thresh, and I get the idea that, like, Galio is going to end up maybe being a flex pick between support and mid position, which actually tells me you should be banning out ADs more than anything. But this is really intriguing. It's not going to be Talia jungle that we were so familiar with at the beginning of the split. Instead, it's going into the mid lane for Cinderay Rage to try to get around the map and make some aggressive plays. It's also got that counteract, that E being able to be that minefield for Camille jumping in, Rakan jumping through them. That's actually a really nice denial tool for things like that.
Yeah, if you can execute on it, I think it would be very beneficial for Drury University. However, talk to me about that mid lane a little bit more, Rebel, because it feels like these champions want to do similar things, push the wave and then roam to the side lanes to help their team. Illinois College, though, that's their style. It's their bread and butter, the 1-3-1 playing to those side lanes, and it feels like their comps just does it a little bit better. How does the Talia work into this game plan for Drury?
Actually, you've got really amazing combinations of champions here on both sides. Where like IC's got very instantaneous CC in Udyr to combine with Galio, who's also got a lot of CC. The opposite of that is like the Skarner, who's it's a little bit less accessible. You have to hit your E and auto attack and then press ultimate, but then you have more damage to supplement with Talia. So the executions there, if you're there, a lot faster with Skarner Talia. But Galio is going to be moving not only into River to help in 2v2s, but also to side lanes with that ultimate. Talia can match as well. So then it comes like a wave clear challenge between these two. And I like Talia, I know, took quite a few nerfs to try to remove that wave clear ability and to try to take her away from the rest of the map to some extent in mid lane, which is why partially she's been brought into the jungle position. I'm curious now whether or not Tsundere Rage has actually come up with an alternative to try to get that wave clear up. Do you go for things like Ludens to try to help clear that wave? Do you go for Everfrost for execution instead? What about DMAT? So you take DMAT against the Galio just to try to get your wave clear up a little bit higher and make sure that you're not able to. Also, the Talia is relatively exposed in the laning phase for the Udyr and Galio who can shade CC her. So it's another possibility we got to see is maybe they aggress against the Talia, try to shut her down like that.
Yeah, and getting the lane priority is the one thing if you can get that push shoving, but having lanes to go to is another. And it does feel like, at least on paper, the bottom lane for Illinois College, Kimi and Cold Cottage, should have the advantage against Shallow and Cinemonster here. They surely drafted for it. They spent almost all of their ban resources into shutting Cinemonster down. And so you would expect them to have the edge there. As well in the top lane, Prankuru has been known for his lane priority. So let's say Tsundere Rage is able to get ahead. If he doesn't have the priority in his lanes, how is he looking to play this game? Do Drury want to get proactive, or are they just going to be answering Illinois' calls?
A good combination of, I think, playing to your mid jungle duo, because that's exceptional, into the river. Again, if you've got Skarner, that's one of your best pick tools that exists within the confines of this game. You get that Skarner ultimate on top of the rocks until he is able to get the seismic shove. That's an executed Camille, it's an executed Kaiser, that's an executed Rakan. Probably not Udyr Galio to start the game off unless you've got a little bit more damage to throw into that situation. But at minimum, the pick tool is there. So I think you can play very heavily for that, especially if Oathcurrick actually gets ahead, which is where they should be playing early on. If you don't have priority at all in your lanes, you can play for team fight. I do worry that the front to back is a little difficult because neither Zaya nor Talia is able to work their way through Galio and Udyr's massive health bars, especially with a lot of dive potential from Camille. But so to me, it feels as though right now Drury really does need to try to play for this early laning phase for mid and bottom or mid and jungle priority, just so that they can actually have an effect on their map. Because otherwise, they might just get out tanked as the game continues.
Yeah, just turbo chem tank difference. If you're able to get that item a couple of minutes earlier, the game's pretty much over at that point. But I like what you say there. You know, there's a couple of options for Drury to get aggressive, and I think that in the last game of the season, you have to just throw everything out the window. Drury are coming in as the underdogs. I think anybody that knows these teams well would agree with that. But that doesn't mean that you can't just spice it up a little bit. And even at the very top of the table, we see G2 falling off games because teams are able to just accelerate the game so fast that it's a bloodbath and there's just no way to actually outplay. So, Drury, I'm excited to see what they have for us in store of this very last match because, again, this is your playoff hopes on the line. It is do or die for both these squads. And Illinois College, it would be a complete failure for them if they were to drop out of playoffs, being the only team not to make it. But we can talk your ear off all day long, but the players have a game waiting for us. We're going to hop into a short break while these players get on to Summoner's Rift. Don't go anywhere. Game 1 between Illinois College and Drury University is coming right up. Welcome back, everybody. We're joined on Summoner's Rift here by Illinois College and Drury University in game one of the last game of the regular season. The winner of this series goes on to playoffs, and the loser will be the lone team sitting out on the bench. The one loser that didn't get picked for the dodgeball team.
It's
Nobody wants to be
unfortunate.
that kid.
No, and that's also not fair because there are 3 teams who didn't even get to play dodgeball. So, like, yeah, you have to think that as well, that this isn't, like, the most depressing thing in the world. At least you came out and had a team this split, unlike 3 of our other teams who just did not come out and come, or so, the participation we've had most of the split, the competitiveness between a lot of these teams has been, it's been amazing to see no matter what. So I hope that neither of these teams feels too bad about losing, because one of them will have to, and one of them will not make it to playoffs, unfortunately.
Yeah, but still loving to see the games being played out. Drury has always been a team that loses gracefully. I don't want to flame them too much because, like I said, this is a very developmental team. I love Drury so much. They try out crazy things in drafts, and even though they've on paper never been a team that can compete at the top of the table, they've never been a team to just turtle in to scale and just kind of, you know, lose boringly. Like, they always go out with a bang. They always try to push their limits, and that's what I really appreciate in this conference, more than the actual record. But now we get to see them fighting for a chance to actually make playoffs, something they weren't able to achieve last year. And it's starting off as we expected it would. Prankuru already starting to bully Baymax.
I love to see that little thing. It's such a cheap little way for a top laner to gain a ton of priority on first wave without having to do anything crazy. You stand in Tribrush, you check them with a free ability, free auto attack here and there, especially for a Grasp user like the Camille, and then you're able to claim quite a bit. I know the biggest name that I can think of that used it a lot in Collegiate was actually Niles, when he used to play Gangplank, stand in that brush and hit somebody with Trial by Fire, and then they'd lose half of their health bar before they even walk into laning phase, usually at the expense of half of his own health bar, but that's not to be brought about. But that kind of style, that kind of aggression usually helps you out quite a bit to start laning phases. And I like that Prankuru is willing to do that up against Baymax here.
Hey, that kind of style took him all the way to the LCS, so gotta have some sort of merit. So far in this mid lane, Savara has the early push against Tsundere, who does get the level 3 first, though. It is going to be a race to 6 in this mid lane, and I'm curious to see if one player does get it, in a timer before his opponent, if that team is able to actually capitalize on it, or if we're probably going to wait until, the level 7s, 8s for everybody else to catch up until we see these explosive plays. But I think once we do see these ultimates being used, that's when the game is really going to start to swing either way.
This is also a good point to talk about the fact that, like, Talia wall into at least 2 of these champions is pretty not great, because as long as Prankuru has hookshot, they're gone, and then Koala on the Rakan can jump over the wall in multiple ways. The only real threat you've got is for King Me. If that flash is down, there's no way to get over the wall unless somebody's on the other side and you try to press that ultimate button. So there's a person to target, which seems like bot lane. It feels like bot lane also with this Xayah and with this Nautilus is a place they could try to accelerate with a good amount of supportive CC with all of Nautilus, and then also the Feather Call as well. And it seems like they've actually pushed that to a pretty high degree. As here's Skarner, if you look on this bottom side, putting wards down in the opposing jungle, either covering this lane or making sure that you're getting that, as it's actually Baymax who's now maybe under some threat. This ward thankfully is going to catch out Timmy Tam as he makes his way up here.
Good placement there. Drury doing their homework. They know that Timmy Tam loves to just hover up here whenever he can. And for Kurik, it is going to be just as much a race to level 6. And getting that Skarner on your composition and forcing your opponents to pay that tax is actually going to go a decent way into helping Drury get that early game that we wanted them to set up for themselves. If you can, around that mid game, even delay those items. Hang on, though, in the mid lane, Tsundere has to flash away, as he has 50 HP, and just watching as Kurik gets whittled down. Great aggressive play to force out a couple summoners there by Illinois College.
The very fast Timmy Tam with Ghost alongside that Bear stance makes it so hard to just, like, try to get away if you're Syndere Rage. Thankfully, the flash is there.
And now it's being engaged there from Cold Cottage. Cinemonster has to use the dredge line to get out of there, and we'll be able to just trade health bars pretty evenly. Prankuru, though, has found Baymax way too far up in this lane. We'll let him go after he hops away. Didn't want to try to commit the flash, but Baymax He'll be licking his wounds after that one, and Prankuru is already freezing that lane, looking for an interrupt. He's not going to be able to come back to much of anything.
No. Three waves actually getting consistently bullied here. Illinois College just not letting anyone sit. It was top and bot lane generating their own advantages as Cinemaster lost a fair amount of the health. And of course, Cinderay Rage having to burn the flash from the Udyr, just running in on top of the Talia. No additional mobility. Trying to hit the seismic shove on a normal target that's moving is already difficult enough. If you imagine just how fast Udyr is going to be running, you might as well just like give up on that pre-notion, because it just simply will not happen over the course of the game. You got to pick somebody else. And in that sense, the flash must be burnt to make sure that Cinderay doesn't fall.
You're going to have to put a lot of time into chess to be able to calculate that many moves ahead to try to hit that Udyr. But the bot lane, even though they don't have the or are with the prio that they have had, are going to move into this dragon with Kuruk starting this one up. There's nobody around to, or rather, no, he's just on the scuttle. He fooled me.
Yeah,
I saw his little icon moving around that pit, but he was just chasing the scuttle around. Now, though, that he's got the push in mid lane and he's got the push in the bot lane, his laners are able to roam around. This is going to be the first objective going over to Drury. Really good start from them. They not only have not let any deaths come through, have limited Prankuru to just a small CS lead, but they're grabbing early dragons for themselves, which, should they need it, can stall a lot of time later on.
Yeah, it's really interesting how this dragon actually came to be, because on bottom side, Kingme and Koala actually had a pretty decently sized wave that just got eviscerated by Shallow, and they weren't able to punish off the back end of it. I think because Koala was a little afraid to try to stand in front of the wave or stand in the wave to play aggressively into Cinemaster and Shallow, as you don't want that to happen.
Ooh, good Gnar ultimate there from Baymax. He's caught Prankuru down with a nice health trade, but he's able to dodge out on that boulder and will be fine.
He will be. We're still waiting for these mid lane stacks, right? You and I both know. I mean, first off, Predator on Galio just means you can run anywhere fast enough, and you combine that with the ultimate. You can go anywhere. Talia Wall is definitely a tool. Teleport's actually here as well for both laners, so you've got a number of globals. The ability to move is there.
They're looking for Baymax. Prankuru, he's dangling himself on a string here for his bait. Savara did just kind of like walk into the lane. So Baymax is going to know well that he's in a 1v2, but he steps up anyway. And it's the hook shot into the taunt. It's just too easy. First blood going to go over to Savara to engage in the bottom lane, as well as Shallow has tried to find Cold Cottage, who's down a little bit of HP, but they've got the jungler to back them up. He's going to back off with a bit of a health trade, as Prankuru is dangerously low to falling in the top side. And TPs are going to be channeled in. There's that undodgeable ultimate. Still level 5 for Kingme. He's got no escape tools. And a flash away from Cold Cottage to staunch the bleeding. It's an answer back from Drury right when they needed it most.
That it is. 1 for 1 right there. TP from Gnar wanting to make sure. Actually, a counter teleport. Here we go.
Unless Illinois College has something to say about it. They found Cinemonster and he's gone. Baymax has the ultimate, but he just barely goes mega. He's going to find 3 and flash away, but the damage is going to be negligible, and Shallow will still be left to run for his life. He doesn't have anywhere to go, and he's going to fall. Illinois College trading that one around. It looked like it was just going to be the even play, which would have been great for Drury, but that teleport all at the end of it swung massive for Illinois College.
And Drury stayed there for a second. I think off the back of this teleport play to bottom side, they see this wave and they're like, okay, maybe we can punish a little harder, not expecting to be punished with a double TP in a bot side, because Timmy Tam was already there. Koala had stick around. If they, if Koala had back, Timmy Tam had been somewhere on the map looking for counter jungling or something. This looks like a completely different play, because that ends up being an outnumber with the double TP. But because they had 2 members already there, the double TP is committed into bottom side, and they're able to pull so much off of Drury. Again, just trying to pull even more off of their play, overstaying or overclocking a little bit of what they actually received on the map, as now even Kingme might be in a little bit of trouble again.
He's got flash, he's got the ultimate, but he's only just gets to press his buttons. Cold Cottage is going to find the charm onto 2, and Othkurik is going to fall wrapped up with a bow and donated over to Kingme. Didn't even need to use those summoner spells. Calm, cool, and collected is the Illinois College ADC.
Yeah, right there. I think there's a bit more damage potentially in the combo from Tsundere Rage, but again, this Talia is not yet onto that first mythic item or onto Sork Shoes, which is actually a pretty common first buy. As you can see, the damage is there to drop somebody down 60% of their health bar, especially someone without magic resist. But with Sork Shoes or with just one completed mythic item, that probably becomes an instant execution onto Kai'Sa, even without a perfect combo of like throwing a Q or an extra Q or something into the middle of a combo and then using another Q afterwards because of the cooldown or something. And because of that, now King Me not only wasn't killed off, but now can actually move and push out mid lane. They get to walk in for this. Okay, interesting trade of flashes. All right.
Flash for support the ADC. You'll take that if you're Drury. At least opens up a window, especially with that ultimate timer being down. They don't really have a lot of options to punish Kai'Sa in that window, but at least knowing that the flash is off the table will make King Me a little bit more hesitant to go for some of these plays. Timmy Tam has just set up a tent here in the top lane. The rest of the map is good now. They've got their lead and they're continuing to create advantages on their own. And so now it all comes down to how far can we push Prankuru ahead of the rest of the team? And it's the 3-man dive and a kill going over to Timmy Tam. He has the Herald to pop down and will do so. And the turret should eventually fall. Gonna leave Prankuru here, but he's got the wave.
Yeah, collect quite a bit of this gold, probably 4 tower plates, if not all 5, because it doesn't look like any TP or any members actually heading up here, so it should just be a full tower. When I say I don't like blind pick Gnar, things like this pop into my head. This is the reason why. It's not that Gnar's a bad champion, and not that you can't have outplays or things that might actually counteract something like this. It's just so easy to try to abuse against a mini Gnar in this way, especially when you leave up something like Camille that allows the engage, when you already know Udyr's on the board. It's at least a little tough for me allowing that pick to come through. I'm not saying it's necessarily horrible, but already you see what the game plan is from the side of Illinois College. They're going back to kind of their roots and playing around Prankuru, which makes a lot of sense given the volatility of this matchup, and now Camille very, very heavily favored in the side lane. Maybe the rest of the map could start to follow suit.
What pick would you like more, Rebel? Because it does feel like Drury, hold that thought. We might see a bit of an engage. No, they're going to scuttle their way out of there. But it does feel like Drury, we're in a bit of a tough situation in the draft. With Baymax leaning on him to be more of their damage threat in the last couple weeks. But, I mean, he's up against Prankuru. He's not really going to win that skill matchup in a 1v1.
That's fair. And it's a curiosity that comes to your mind because it's just like, okay, what are you picking for jungle? Because you'd already seen the Udyr up, and it's like, okay, the Skarner's here. And then you're like, all right, what else is something that we can just safely blind pick at any position? And like Gnar makes some sense. I prefer to save that for R5. So for me, it would have been ADC. You either go the Kai'Sa or you even go the Xayah, because how does that change any composition if the likes of the Camille and the Galio are up? I don't think you change anything if you're on the side of IC, if you see Xayah come in at the earlier stages, but now at least you get the possibility of playing against Camille. You can play with shenanigans like that, but again, that's all postulation because maybe the entire draft changes. I don't like talking about that too much. All I know is, again, picking Gnar blind, you have to know that this is a possibility for a game plan, especially when Galio Camille gets picked, and they haven't been able to find much success playing into bottom side either. They found just like the 1 kill on their Xayah, which is good enough to play with, but again, it seems like IC's been able to run the map not only just in top side, but also canceling out a lot of plays that have come through bot side as well.
Maybe in a different world, a different draft could have helped Drury be a bit closer in this game. They're currently 4,000 gold down, but they've picked up these 2 early dragons for themselves, and this is very important. It's not something that they should have been able to do in this game, but more of just a lack in, map present Illinois College not utilizing those opportunities they had to take those. And now Drury, if they want it, have a slight win condition to play for. But right now they're looking for the bottom lane. It's a charm going to find 2, but they're piling onto King Me. They don't have the damage to finish him off, and Cinemonster has fallen to the turret, and Illinois College turning this play around. With Kuruk, he's feeling desperate, and he tries to go in for the trade. Shallow will eventually find it, but at what cost? Can he get 2? No, Cold Cottage will flash away and keep that play to just the 1-for-2 trade, but still, that's gonna be something you'll take all day long. Baymax has to teleport in here now to try to save Shallow, and he will do so! Shallow's even gonna get the shutdown on a Timmy Tam. Drury are finding a couple of scrappy kills to go their way.
It's a mess based on Rakan, just because Nautilus and then like the Skarner both go under tower against the Rakan, who just uses the charm, and immediately now there's no way for you to get out, and your front line takes way too much damage. You're able to follow up with King Me on the opposite side, as Xayah wasn't able to get enough burst damage. Thankfully, that TP is going to save one additional kill going over to Timmy Tam, and like you said, at least the caveat of the Xayah is picking up kills, but also during that process, mid lane tower and mid laner both go down, as well as Sundere Rage actually took a gank as well from, I believe it was Prankuru, as well as Savara, and they're able to find even more advantage there, where now all of a sudden, so Drury's finally getting their bot lane to work, at least to some extent. They're still not super far ahead, only about 500 gold compared to King Me, but the rest of their map is completely under fire and fallen far behind. So now it's up to Shallow and trying to enable him to continue to carry these fights front to back. That's going to take some time, but as you said, these dragons might have actually bought them enough to try to get Xayah into this later game relatively safely.
Yeah, Drury at this point can essentially just ignore the bottom half of the map if they want to for the next 20 minutes or until those third, fourth dragons start spawning. We are going to be on the Ocean Soul this time around. Incredibly strong team fighting buff, but to be honest, it doesn't even really feel that great on the dive team because you're wanting to go in, one-shot people, and then just get out. But a bit of a risk too for Drury, with Shallow being this one carry, this kind of one hope for their team going forward, is the composition from Illinois College is designed to kill the one carry. There is so many options to access the backline and get on top of Shallow, and he's got its ultimate, but there's no cleanse, there's no QSS. I mean, he needs cleanse, QSS, Gale Force, GA. He needs everything, and he just does not have it just yet. Baymax has lost his Mega Gnar, and now he is oh so squishy. Cold Cottage goes in with a 4-man charm, but the knockup comes through, and Cinemonster's doing what he can to buy some time. Oathkuruk is dragged Prankuru into the back line, but that's just where he wants to be. He finds his way over the wall on top of Shallow and picks up this shutdown. Baymax will soonly follow. Savara will pick up credit for that one. 2 quick kills for Illinois College, and now it's time for them to reclaim control over this bot side river. They're going to grab their first Ocean Dragon.
And they held control of bot side river. They're actually pushing in to look for wards when it was the response that came out from Drury right there. And, now the first dragon of the game is going to go into the pockets of Illinois College as they can begin their stacking process. But you saw right there how difficult it was for Shallow and Baymax to get out and how little damage you can actually put into this team. Timmy Tam's not even onto full tank yet. You don't have a bunch of tankiness inside of your Rakan or even for Prankuru or Galio to be this massive front line. And yet they still aren't able to focus down anyone, even with this damage from Talia and with this damage from Xayah, which costs them, because again, if you can access Shallow and nobody can kill the people who's actually getting on top of your carry, you're running into a massive amount of trouble, and that's what we saw right there from the side of Breweries. No damage could come out of Shallow.
Yeah, even when Oathkuruk was committed to just peeling, trying to drag Prankuru as far away from the fight, did so before the hook shot, the engage actually came through. I would definitely like to see Drury try to play a bit more around sitting on top of Shallow. It felt like the front line was a bit split from him in that fight. But good job from Illinois College to break this one open. Prankuru is now finished the Ravenous Hydra. And things aren't going to get easier for Baymax from this point out. We are almost to the point, as he is still not completed his first Mythic, where he cannot be alone in that lane against the Camille. Thankfully, he's still pretty even on an XP range. But if Prankuru decides to just run this one down, Drury are going to have to pull multiple members over to deal with him.
You're sitting on pretty much an entire item advantage here on that side. I don't really agree with the fact that Savara is currently in this side lane. Is A, it takes you away from the rest of the map with your ultimate, even though you do have TP. And B, as you said, there's a ton of kill potential coming out of the Camille into the rest of the map. Maybe they want to use Prankuru as an engage to try to find something into Shallow. And actually, that's exactly
they're looking for him. They're not able to find the ultimate quite yet, but there's the knockup and the charm. And Shallow, he's already down to 100 HP, and they've got the damage to finish him off. King Me will claim the kill. Savara as well on a rampage. 2 quick ones there for Illinois College. They dropped the Rift Herald, and they're not wasting any time here, Revel. They want to pack this one up and send it over to game number 2. They're looking to siege down this inhibitor turret 19 minutes into the game. The extra farm be damned. Illinois College is trying to speed run this one, and they found Baymax again. The flash forward, a double man taunt And all of a sudden, Drury University have lost the ability to walk out of their fountain. Illinois College are continuing on the push. Have they gone too far as Timmy Tam will be caught up and traded back? And now I see has to run. Oathkurik thinking about going on the chase. He's got the Chem Tank and he's got the Chilling Smite. And he's found the damage onto Kingme. There's the CC from the Nautilus. He flashes away, but Shallow has wrapped around to the back line and is trying to put out the damage. He gets exhausted and he finds the shutdown, but it's not enough. Kingme has a little bit more DPS, and he's able to trade for the ADC. Savara is taking a lot of damage from Tsundere. There's a lot of low health bars, but it's still 1v3. 2 now that Baymax has joined. Drury will successfully peel Illinois College away from the base, but their base has been left in utter shambles.
And over the course of that entire fight, not like we're not even going to talk about the devastation that just happened because you're sitting on now a 9,000 gold lead 20 minutes into the game. Yes, the Dragons are fine for slowing down, but I don't even know if we're going to get to an Elder or a Drake Soul at some point during this game, let alone an Elder or anything of that sort. But I want to talk really heavily about Savara's impact over 2 of those fights. I think coming in on the initial engagement in the previous fight, started off against the Gnar. That fight came in at 2 times movement speed, was able to deny a couple of the frontliners from doing any sort of work or buying space at all for Shallow to come in. And it forced Shallow to walk into the back line where Kingme was able to win a duel. Yeah, Yasunder Rage wasn't actually able to access anybody. This front line is humongous. It's not just Timmy Tam, it's also this humongous Galio where Savara has been able to do damage and put out a bunch of CC and buy all this space for the rest of his team to do work. And there's no response to that right now. If you're asking my opinion, I think Oathkurik is better off just pulling Galio out of the fight away from everyone else instead, just to try to get some space for anybody to put damage in, because right now with the Galio in the way, there is simply no way to do so.
And you see no pressure to buy any QSSs on the side of Illinois College. I mean, Kingme, if he gets pulled, there's probably not even enough damage to finish him off, and he's got the ultimate to get out. He even went for the Kraken Slayer, didn't feel like he needed the Gale Force. And anybody else on the team will be happy to get pulled in by Oathkurik. They will say thank you for saving me the trouble of having to close that gap. So this Garner not feeling like he's very effective at this stage, and Drury are just completely at the mercy of Illinois College. They only get to go where Illinois gives them express permission to go. And with the Baron up minions looking at this mid wave, they're just trying to, again, close this one out as quickly as possible.
I'm seeing this Skarner ultimate almost as a delivery system for Galio now. It's like if you pull somebody into your team and you want them to do damage, all of a sudden this target for Shallow and for Tsundere Rage and for the rest of the damage dealers, you just drop Galio ultimate onto them, and now they're like, okay, well, I could have autoed them to death, but now I have to walk out. Otherwise, just Galio's going to CC me until I die from the rest of the team. So second Dragon is now going to be going into their pockets. And we've now expanded beyond 10,000 gold, which is humongous from the side of IC, and they're controlling the game rather well. The only thing, Miracle Gnar ultimates, maybe one really good pickoff from Oathkurik could change the outcome of this game. And we've seen that a number of times, sometimes within this league, sometimes within others. When you're pushing too far into the base, you just make a critical error as it comes to setting up your team fight. I just want to see this slow played by IG, or my IC, my apologies, because I don't think they actually need to go too fast here. They can just wait with this Baron buff, siege down another inhibitor, even if they have to wait through in, the soul point. They're perfectly fine doing so, as they should have the scaling on their advantage as well.
Yeah, Illinois College, our most experienced 1-3-1 team, and Drury, they're looking like they just want to force the fight. Baymax finally has a mythic, and they found Cold Cottage Koala. Savara's also going golden, and he's going to get shut down. 2 kills for Drury, and do you believe in miracles? Because Baymax just found one. He finishes the Stride Breaker just in time to find a crucial team fight win. They almost even find Kingme at the end of that all. Drury will buy a couple more minutes for themselves.
Yeah, who would have guessed? I said earlier that like you got to pull the Galio out of the way, and as it turns out, Kirk was able to find that one. That's now Prankuru wants.
You want to say 1v3 with the jungler, doesn't quite have the damage to finish off with Kurik, and now he's got to get out of dodge. No mana, no flash, nowhere to go. Shallow gonna grab the kill. Another oopsie from Illinois College. It's not gonna mean anything right now, but if they keep doing that over and over and over and over and probably over one more time, maybe Drury can come back in this.
Yes, in order for them to match gold, they have to do exactly what they just did 9 times. 9 more of those, and you're back to even gold, and maybe this game starts to shift. One big thing is, of course, Tsundere, Rage, and Shallow are the ones picking up the kills. So your damage are the ones that are actually getting ahead. You still have this really kind of menacing threat, though, that IC yet has been able to actually access, which is the side lane of Prankuru against Baymax. If you just start playing 4-1 or even 1-3-1 with an additional member in the side lane with like Savara hovering in mid lane as the other is in a side lane with the opposite side being where Prankuru is at. There's some possibility that you just win a 4-man fight and then Prankuru is just responded to by anybody and they don't live in that laning phase either. So I feel like IC has not been doing a good job of specifically that process. You're seeing them go to it right now. Again, my preference is actually for 3 to be in a side lane and Galio to be in her mid, especially since mid inhibitor is almost exposed and maybe you pull less attention to that so there's less defense for that particular lane. I don't know what is Prankuru doing. Just go shove the wave. What are you doing, man? You don't need crows. Take the wave. What?
He's got to get that gold, man. Efficiency in his pathing.
He's got like a 2,000 gold advantage over Shallow, and he's far and away the highest gold member on anybody of this team. Like he doesn't need more gold. He needs to push pressure onto this inhibitor.
And you know how he got that way, Rebel? By taking the Krugs.
By taking Krugs. Of course. The cyclical arc.
Boy.
Here we go.
I mean, hey, if he's not going to take them, who is? Because Timmy Tam at this point is just living in Kurik's jungle. So he's probably like, yo, hey, Prankuru, can you go down and take my Krugs really quick? I haven't reset them in like 4 minutes. And they're still like level 9. I kind of need you to do me out. They're Illinois College. They're finally starting to push all these waves in. I've been waiting for them to have all 3 waves crashing at the same time. They've been doing 2 pretty consistently, but finally all 3 are pushed up, and they're going to use that pressure to get another reset. Drury going to be allowed to walk up, clear a little bit of vision out. There is no gold available for them really to pick up unless they do head to those side lanes. But a mythic across the board now for Drury. That is a step up from what we've seen them throughout this game. Still, though, they're hoping for another one of those miracles for IC to make another oopsie here in this game. Yes. And the Baron is coming up soon, and we know how teams love to make oopsies around the big purple worm.
And incredibly, actually, bot lane is going to be slow pushing in, so this wave has been stacked really well by Prankuru, which has to be responded to by Baymax. Ideally, this would have been on top side if you're actually like looking for strategy here, as ideally that would pull somebody to the top side of the map away from the dragon where you're going to play to, which tells me they want to play for Baron more than anything, but their posture is telling me the exact opposite, where now they're using this control and they're waiting in a death brush, just shoving out mid over and over again, waiting for this team to walk into the jungle to try to look for a fight around this dragon instead of this Baron. Also, Drury is slow playing these waves that are crashing into the inhibitors. It's right there. You saw Shallow pull that wave instead of the likes of the Gnar. So both these teams are playing very slowly, trying to force the other one to make a bad move, or just playing exceptionally slowly, which is to the benefit, I think, of Drury at this point. And that's why you see I'm finally happy for the team to have finally made a very aggressive move, as now they're looking to secure the Baron. And it's highly unlikely they're going to do anything about it. What?
It is spotted out. They don't have their jungler around, though. Timmy Tam is soloing down that Ocean Drake. So they don't want to commit and risk the 50-50 because Kuruk did have the vision. It is surprising that, Illinois College still looking to close this one out. I want to call out again that the reason Drury is able to sit back and skill right now is because of those dragons. IC are a little bit tired of it, though, as Baymax, he has the ultimate, but he's going to get hit by the Camille. There goes the engage, and the health bars are doing a magic gasket, disappearing. It's a 1-for-1 trade so far, jungler for support. But Illinois College will take that trade. That means that they can fall back to the Baron should they want to. Kingme walks forward to dodge the seismic shove, but it's into 4 members. He's trying to survive now. All the CC comes out, but Drury get baited in to the waiting arms of Illinois College. And there's enough damage to take them down. Run stun, job done. Timmy Tam will put the final nail in the coffin. And that might be all Illinois College needs. There's still about 30 seconds on Shallow and Baymax. Tsundere Rage, the only one that can stave them off now, but the waves aren't there. And so it looks like IC will again just take that one inhibitor and back off.
And now a back timing could put you in the realm of where a Baron could very easily be placed, where your top side has now been set up properly. I don't know who it was that did that, but props to whoever that was. Mid lane just needs shoved out really quickly off the back of the back, and then you can walk into enemy jungle on top side, look for vision, and snag this Baron away. As now also you can at minimum force a fight around next dragon, because if you give over Ocean Soul, this is just game over from the side of Drury. Is now you have absolutely no way of playing against anybody on this team. So right at this moment, I want to see them just straight up push down mid lane. I don't know. I think it's just a red buff going for King Me right now. But after that's done, shove out mid. Top wave could probably be fixed at least a little bit. That's where right now Timmy Tam should probably be heading. This is really smart from Drury. They've noticed that that's going to be the case. No one's covering bot side for the incoming minion wave, but they don't really have time to respond to that right now. As if they lose this Baron, the game's probably just over anyway.
Worst case scenario, they do have 2 teleports to get back to the Nexus should those minions go completely unanswered. But Baymax, recognizing the Baron hasn't been started yet, will go back. The Baron is started now. There is no vision currently on the pit unless they hit that ward. So Baymax doesn't even know that he needs to teleport in. There's the info, but it's a little bit too little, too late. Illinois College will pick up their second Baron of the game. Let's see if they're able to actually end it off this one. Last time, they got all the way to taking down the first Nexus turret, and you can see that mid lane inhib turret was taken so very low. This should be the final push from Illinois College. If this doesn't end the game, you start to ask the question of, does the gold lead even matter at that point? But we've got a couple of minutes for Illinois College to work their magic.
We do. We have 2 minutes specifically until the Dragon's going to come up. And if by that time the Baron has even been able to just keep the waves where they're at right now, that's definitely a win for the side of IG. Drury, they played very defensively right there. They said, okay, we're not even going to fight you at the Baron. We're just going to wait for you to crack our inhibitors, maybe look for a better fight later. As now into the mid lane, here they go.
Looking for something right now. Kuruk runs in, grabs Timmy Tam. But he is so tanky, and again, you delivered the Udyr right into the back line. Shallow has to already use the ult. Now Prankuru's on top of him, and he has no defensive tools left. Prankuru will take out the ADC. Tsundere Rage will get zoned off running towards the jungle, and Illinois College will wipe the fight. They don't drop a single member this time, and the second Baron will be oh so quicker than the first. It took a little bit longer than they might have expected. Drury, good job again on picking up those early dragons and stalling this one out, but eventually a 31-minute victory in game 1 for Illinois College.
I got a friend who likes to talk about wanting to cross their T's and dot their I's as the game continues as a way to finish the game. It feels like a couple of L's got turned to T's there from the side of ICs. He just went a little overboard, but I do appreciate that they slow played it towards the end of the game. They were trying to play for the fight that would actually just do the killing blow. It did take a minute or two to actually get to that, but they never overextended into the base to look for a pure end. They never really took a very, very aggressive fight. Most of what they were doing was just reacting to any plays that were coming from Drury, as when they have the advantage and they control the entire map, you don't have to do anything else. So big props to IC, despite the fact that it was a little slower than what we would have wanted, at minimum knowing exactly how to aggress against what Drury was trying to do.
Yeah, and other than the pace of the game, I honestly don't have too many marks against Illinois College. That felt like a very clean-cut Illinois College game. They got exactly what they wanted in the draft, winning lanes kind of across the board. They got Prankuru on one of his favorite champions, and they executed it fairly well too. So good job, IC. And this looks like a team that should be at the top of the standings. This is much more in line with what we expected Illinois College to be coming into this match. Now, again, they are tied in 4th place right now with a 2-3 series scored with Drury. So if Drury want to make it to the playoffs, they have to come back and win out these next 2 games. But Illinois College could silence them right here and get themselves a nice 2-0 win to give themselves a confidence boost going into the playoffs next week. But we still have more games on the other side of a short break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with game 2 between Illinois College and Drury University. Welcome back, everybody. It's week 2 of the Midwest Esports Conference. I'm Audio. Joining me here is Rebel Fox, and we're in game number 2 here between Illinois College and Drury. IC ran away with game number 1 despite Drury's best efforts to stall, and now they'll have to fight for their life in a reverse sweep if they want to make playoffs. Remember, winner of this match moves on, and the loser will be the only team in the MEC to sit outside that playoff bracket, thanks to those 3 vacant spots at the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate side effect of what's happened this season, and it is nice at least that these two teams have the possibility of fighting for it. Sometimes it's like, oh, you need two or three other teams to also lose in this case, and because you're competing with other teams who've also been winning and losing over the course of the entire season. So in this case, I mean, if Drury loses, it feels bad because you lost, but at least you have a chance to win yourselves in here. And for a developmental roster, like we've been talking about with Drury, they might have tricks up their sleeves. They might be able to change their play to some extent and try to come back in the series up against IC. And the best part about that is, again, if they win this series, they just go. There's nothing else to say about that. You don't have to worry about two or three other teams also having the same record, also have to win and lose and all this other nonsense. Instead, it's just a do or die situation where they've put themselves in the right place now to be able to win. So hopefully, this side selection actually gives them a little bit more life and gives them the possibility to compete in a way they didn't in the previous game.
Yeah, blue side gives a whole another slew of options as you now get access to that first pick. And we saw a very strange pick and ban phase for game number one, with all of the attention being thrown towards those ADCs and supports. And we saw Rel being banned in the round two bans, Kaisa being picked up like what was it, B4, B5. It was absolutely nuts. So I'm very curious as to how this next draft phase is going to work out. But I hope Drury also have something up their sleeve. It's your potential last game of the season. Might as well pull out something a little bit spicy. That last comp, you know, left a little bit to be desired. It didn't feel like they drafted themselves very many options for that game. But I do think there were still some bright spots, specifically Baymax and Shallow. Baymax got stomped in the laning phase, but there was a couple of really crucial team fights later on where he was able to hit the Mega Gnar, especially once he got the Stride Breaker and make some plays happen. Shallow as well was a very surprising standout for me in that game when he was just getting absolutely bullied by King Me and Cold Cottage, and Cinemonster being, really the sacrificial lamb, I think ending with like 7 deaths. Shallow was consistently able to pick up some kills in those fights.
There were good portions of the game here from the side of Drury, and the big thing for me was actually just that they kind of lost the game in a very sequential order, which was they played to top on the side of Illinois College, got Prankuru ahead, then Timmy Tam, you kind of flexed that into mid lane, and then once those two are ahead, then they went into bot lane and won King Me and Koala's lane. And once all 5 of the people are ahead, it's very hard to slow down the snowball that's going to continue from that point. And there was no aggression on the other side of the map. They tried really heavily to get Shallow ahead with a couple of ganks, but they slowed that down with that early kind of double TP play with Prankuru and Savara. And after that, it just felt like there was no aggression across the map. I want to see them go for something in this one that is going to change that. And what would you know? That's a good way to. I like that. That's a pretty good way to start things
Yeah.
off.
That's a good start. I had 2 big questions coming into the draft here for Drury. What were they going to, or would they play Seraphine? And the answer to that is no.
No.
You can see them banning it away. First option on blue side. But then 2, were they going to continue to give Baymax this super high priority in the draft and just grabbing him a comfort match like the Gnar or like the Shen up there on the top side? I think the Tristana first pick, it makes a lot more sense. However, it does give over that premier jungler in the Udyr. No jungles banned away once again. And IC are going to pair it alongside that Galio, starting to piece together the components of last game's composition.
You don't have the Camille, which is good. That was taken away from the side of Drury, so having learned their lesson, they know not only is that a pretty good lane for Prankuru, but also they can play to it very effectively with the remainder of their team. So there's at least that to consider. And now with Tristana on your bottom side here for Drury, they also are capable of playing to that lane really effectively, or even just having the ability to solo kill in that lane. So for me, what you're looking at right now, I actually love the Hecarim pick here, is that's actually become one of the better picks into the likes of the Udyr, especially since the Chem Tank has kind of come about as a little bit of a cheaper way to start into the game, as opposed to like the Divine Sunder or the Trinity Force, whichever your option is. And now they could also look to even counterpick Galio or priority pick support here, just depending on where they think the Galio is going to end up, and give that Tristana actually a winning chance in this bottom side.
Yeah, we'll see what the pick here is for Drury. I would expect support grabbing themselves one before it just gets targeted in the ban phase, and it's going to be the Thresh to go alongside that Tristana. I think very good pick, offers engage as well as disengage, which is going to be important going up against the Udyr and the Galio, the ability to lantern somebody out of harm's way, as well as the option to engage if you do find a pushed up member in that bottom lane. Will I see grab a support for themselves here? Or will they just grab the Zaya away from Shallow? That's going to be the option. And I assume, or sorry, not away from Shallow. He already has that Tristana. But I assume they will start laying the bans onto the top lane, onto Baymax. Because I see on red side, they have the chance to set up counter pick for Prankuru here.
That they do. The one thing they do lose is I don't know what their thought process is with this Galio and whether or not they're willing to take that into the Thresh or not. If you want to protect the viability of having Galio continue into the bot lane, you have to pick top lane first. But I agree, I don't think that's the better of the two options here, which is why you see some supports getting banned off the board, trying to pull Galio away from wherever they are on the map. I actually think that's a good matchup for Thresh. So ideally, pulling supports off here is doubling as A, it's taking champions away from the pool to try to get Galio to force down there, or just shrinking the pool with the picking from in the first place to make sure that Tristana Thresh have a good lane. Zaya, I can respect in this one just because now you have the flip matchup where Zaya is going to get dove on by the likes of Tristana and Hecarim, and that ultimate and the Gale Force are going to be a good safety tool to make sure that you don't just get bullied off in the way that you did last game.
Yeah, we'll see what the top lane pick is going to be here. As I assume you're probably right, Illinois College is going to save that for counter, but we'll have to see. The Kled and the Malphite, two picks that Baymax has shown proficiency on in the past. I'm going to be taking away some other ones that come to mind. The Shen is one that he has spoken out about having really enjoyed. It. One of the picks that he focused on the most when he swaps from the mid lane to the top lane. But as well as the Darius, I know, is one of his preferred champions that he goes to, especially if Drury feels like putting a bit more agency into him. So I see you have the choice here. Will it be the Galio support? No, it's going to be the Braum locked in. So Galio will be remaining in the mid lane. And it will be the counter pick for Prankuru. So we'll see what Drury decides to blind into that lane.
I can appreciate that. I am running into the problem that IC's damage is a little low. We saw a similar thing happen last game where if Talia didn't get really ahead, you don't have a ton of damage, and so it's all on the Zaya. And Zaya's in the same boat in this one where you've got Galio mid now, who's going to be building a little bit more for utility. But as we had spoken of before the game had started, there was actually a Savara champion for the side of Illinois College that played it more. But here we actually get to see Sundere Rage try his hand at the Anivia into the Galio, which is a phenomenal mid-lane matchup.
Yeah, and Drury, they were able to stall the game out so effectively last time, and Anivia a great champion at doing that. The Pantheon locked in. If this, I assume this is going to Baymax, he's throwing down the gauntlet. He's going to take it to Prankuru in the top lane.
He is. This is an incredible pick for two reasons. It actually reminds me really heavily of, I'm trying to think exactly the champion that comes to mind when I think of this. I'm trying to think of something else. This is what I was going to say as a potential response pick as you saw the Malphite got banned out, and I was like, okay, immediately that throws up flags for Wukong. And this becomes now a more intriguing matchup because Pantheon wins against most top laners in the very early levels and starts to get outscaled. And by that time, hopefully you've gotten enough an advantage to continue your lethality train, or you just start building into tank or start roaming across the map doing something somewhere else. And it's so hard to find aggression into Wukong because of that clone and because of the auto attack distance, the poking ability from Wukong with E and Q makes it so difficult to stick to him for Pantheon or any other champion.
Oh, Illinois College in the client. Monkey. Definitely. It's been a while since I've seen a Wukong played in competitive, but I'm excited to watch Prankuru pilot it. I'm excited to watch him play just about anything. But with Drury now really showing that they're going to have to play around that top side, that Pantheon is going to demand a little bit of resources. Maybe he can win or find some advantages in isolation, but you know damn well Illinois College is not going to let that lane go isolated. They are going to be sending as many players as they can up there. That was the whole purpose of putting that Galio back into the mid lane and drafting that Braum, was so that he can have the access to that ultimate faster and have the option to go to the side lane should anything happen. So Drury really need to come into this game with a plan to get the Pantheon ahead, because I don't think it's enough to just say, okay, Baymax, we drafted you an okay lane, have fun with it.
This is pretty fun times as well. So first off, before we talk about something obvious, you do see Savara on Gallia and you do see Pranku on the Wukong, which makes some sense. And these two are given the tools, I think, they're given the keys to the car. And this one is they're the driving force behind this game. Wukong jumps to the backline, starts the ultimate, gets Galio into backline, and this is what worked for them in the previous game with the combination of like the Camille with the Galio, which I think was really strong. But now we're seeing, like you had said before, Baymax was the original mid laner in the previous season. It makes sense that he'd still have AP champions in the pool. My thought process is maybe they're swapping this and they say, okay, Baymax has a larger champion pool than Cinderay Rage does. You play that into Galio mid lane, and now Cinderay Rage has to play into top side with this Pantheon, where maybe that matchup is going to look a lot better on paper. This is potentially just like a champion pool thing where they're swapping their two solo lanes out here to try to make for better matchups.
Yeah, that seems like the most logical explanation to me as well. Entertain me for a moment though,
Sure.
Rebel. This Anivia against the Wukong in the top lane. If Baymax does stay top with the Anivia, how does that lane look?
Pretty bad for only because the W, because it gives you now a dash, actually gets you out of center radius of the little stun circle that coming in from Anivia. So if you wait too long on Anivia, you just go past it and then you immediately jump on Anivia and your wall does nothing because you just jump over the wall or flash over the wall, whatever you want to do. It doesn't look great for Anivia. The best you can hope for is just playing super defensively on top side, but then you also come back to mid lane and you reel into that position and it's like, okay, now you've got Pantheon into Gallia. We're like, sure, your first few levels are pretty mean. You're probably not killing Galio. The best you can hope for is getting to that level 6 mark quickly and starting to roam like a Talon might or like any other assassin might. And that is a pretty risky strategy as well in my mind, especially after some of the nerfs that Pantheon took. So my thought is this is going to be Pantheon top with the Nivea bot lane. I don't know, or mid lane. It's not impossible to see the reverse, but I think it wouldn't be preferential here for the side of Drury to do that.
Yeah, they'd probably be shooting themselves in the foot a little bit there. So I think you're on the right page. It's just, hey, it's the MEC. Anything can happen, especially when Drury's involved. I have always been a big fan of their drafts because they're always willing to do things unexpected to catch their enemies off guard. And that's exactly what they need right here, right now, because if they don't win this very game, their season's over. They're going to be going home, and it's been a great ride, but you know they don't want to end it here. They want to get just that couple more games, one more series, at least in the playoffs. So maybe Anivia top is the secret tech that could help them do it, but I think it's a really nice draft overall from Drury. I think both of us are, I hope I could speak for you, say that we're pleased with this draft. I heard you saying a couple of times in the lane, like, hey, I really like these answers. Do you think that Drury has done enough in this game too to give them a decent, or we'll say a fighting chance?
They've given themselves a lot of tools to work with in this game. I still don't love Anivia with dive comps where you've got Pantheon and Tristana and Hecarim to work for because you're just playing on two separate like wavelengths where Anivia is playing responsive. But it does give you a better tool into Galio and B, a defensive tool against the likes of Galio, Wukong dive, and also Udyr. It's a very painful champion for Udyr to deal with. So I don't mind the Anivia fitting in here as particularly that tool. I think they at least have improved upon what they did in game number 1. I'm excited to see what their differences look like. Even if they go out, they're going out with a blaze of glory like you had attested to in game number 1 as well.
Yep, the Drury way. But we'll have to see if they're able to step it up. Drury, it's your time to shine here in game number 2. Or Illinois College is your time to silence the haters and prove that you do belong at the top of the table. We're going to go to a short break as these players get onto Summoner's Rift for game number 2, though. Don't touch that browser. We'll be right back. Now, what did I tell you? You touched your browser, didn't you? I saw you. It might have only been for a few seconds, but as long as you're back here, I guess I can forgive you this time. But remember, main monitor, not second monitor. That's for that's for the LCS. We're the main focus here, and we're back in game number 2 as Illinois College are walking out in a
Hold up a minute.
5-stack.
Hold up a
They're
minute.
spotted out.
I don't care about the 5-stack right now. I'm focused far more on something else. You want to take a look at the first item for Pantheon? Now, why is there steel shoulder guards on our top lane Pantheon? Yeah, this is becoming interesting to me because you can't use this for anything.
Interesting.
Like, are they trying to spike Oathcurrick? Because like Oathcurrick is going further. You'd think maybe they would be going for some sort of like funneling composition here, which like could make sense, I guess, into the likes of like the
Please no.
Hecarim play. Yeah, I wouldn't like to see it either. It's just so
Leave it.
weird. What's the point of it though then?
Leave it to Drury University to be
To
the
bring
ones to
to
bring back
funnel.
Funnel, to reach into the abyss of dark secret tech, of forbidden tech in League of Legends and try to revive the Funnel comp. Yeah, this is mind-boggling to me because, I mean, it's got to just be a mistake. Tsundere Rage just must not have noticed. I don't know if it recommends the steel shoulder guards level 1 for
I have no
Pantheon, just
idea.
like regardless, but we'll see if he goes back and actually swaps that out because if he picks up, you know, this entire wave, it is just going to be reduced gold for him.
That it will. And again, it doesn't seem like they're doing anything crazy with Oathcurrick coming up here and collecting enough of
Oh
the
my
wave. He played pretty far
goodness.
forward. Like, and even worse, yeah, he was one of very, very far issue of this top lane trade as well. There's a lot of problems. This item is literally useless for you in the beginning of the game because it reduces the gold you'll get eventually. Your flat stats just aren't as good at anywhere near what you can get from a Doran's item or from just even a longsword triple pod. This is, like I said, this is either the biggest blunder I've ever seen or they're planning something with this, but I don't see what the strategy is right now.
Yeah, if they're planning something, then they've already wasted a lot of time because, like you said, early on, you get no effectiveness from it, but it's a little bit of a scuffle. Okay, health bars traded between the ADC and support. We do see with Kuruk starting on the bot side, will be pathing up towards the top lane early on, and Prankuru is pushed pretty far up, so there's a possibility they can make a play happen, but he does have the ward in the brush. This is just brutal. Tsundere is already down to a quarter HP, and he has no sustain whatsoever.
An excruciating start to this laning phase. And even worse now, Parankur and Timitam are coming in for the blue buff steal. They're able to, if Carrick's able to grab it, but they're just going to auto him to the ground. Oh.
Yeah, he's going to go back in, look for a little bit of a trade, but he has Tsundere with him, but I don't think they win the 2v2. Hook's going to land in the bottom lane, and Exhaust will come out onto shallow. Kingme has to flash away as that bomb at least would have set up the reset. Good trade there from Drury's bottom lane to force out a couple of sums. They're starting to get aggressive.
Yeah, an extremely good use of that exhaust also, making sure that Kingme couldn't trade anything back, and Koala wasn't able to get the stun onto shallow. Very nicely played by Cinemaster. This is what's to be expected. This bottom lane was actually very well set up with the combination of Tristana, Thresh. There's a lot of aggression that can come in, good safety from the Lantern as well. So the Xayah is not likely to feel very comfortable within this lane anytime soon as a benefit to everything else. Okay, I'm looking at Tsundere. He's not selling this.
Oh, I mean, he hasn't left base yet. He still has. Okay, yeah. Now,
Yeah.
I don't understand. Maybe we'll have to just send him a DM after the game, ask him exactly what went on. But I've never seen it before in any other region, so I don't even know like what it would theoretically do for you, what scenario they're trying to set up. It does just feel like a mistake to me, but at this point, it's a mistake gone unnoticed, and that's even worse. So we'll have to just keep an eye on it as the game goes on, and just keep an eye more specifically on the gold and see how far Tsundere Rage falls behind. Because I mean, maybe I don't even want to theorize, Rebel. It's just we're never gonna see this again.
Yeah. I mean, I could give you an explanation of at least something that could be happening here, but that's usually contingent on what happens bot lane when you're running it, and I'm not going to talk about that whatsoever. So I think focus
Yeah.
on the rest of the map's more important. As Prankuru is already winning the lane as it is, so we're not even concerned with that at the moment. So keeping an eye on Timmy Tam, he's been around the map, just kind of aggressing against this Hecarim as fast as possible, which is crazy given the fact that Okturik's actually running the Ignite. Not something uncommon on the likes of the Hecarim, but is still a little bit crazy. That's Koala.
He might be looking to go forward here as Koala eats the bomb and throws down some concussive blows.
So correct.
Othguric getting bullied out of his own jungle. Prankuru making sure that he does not get any camps on this side of the map. It is complete control. Tsundere Rage is basically a enlarged cannon minion at this point. And that's all the encouragement Timmy Tam needs to set up shop. Cinemonster gets tagged by the concussive blows and does not land the death sentence. Kigme finding a good chunk of damage. That lane starting to swing back in IC's favor as they are shoving in the wave here. And Savara is level 6. He isn't showing mid lane. He's just hovering around. So there's not much Shallow and Cinemonster can do.
Yeah, at the moment, also, you have the back timing that was met by King because of the initial damage that was put down by that, like, bomb exchange at the beginning of the game. But Shallow hasn't been able to back since then. And so Shallow's sitting on 1,500 gold.
Okay. He lives. I thought he was going to die to minions there. Honestly, man, he's like a flash auto away. I don't know if he's trying to bait them in, but he's giving me anxiety.
Yeah, it was a little bit tough right there watching the fourth rush just get kind of autoed down by minions. It's really intriguing because of this actually might end up benefiting the side of IC here, just because they could go for Dragon if this gank doesn't work from Othguric, though.
Yep, he does not have the level 6, but he does have the wrap round, and there's the Ignite as well. Kingme knocked under turret, and they're looking for the trade. Kingme accepting. He's going to go down here. Exhaust coming through to secure it. But Savara teleports in. He finds a two-man taunt. Shallow is going to flash away. It's the one kill for Drury's side. And IC will start up the Dragon for the trade.
It didn't actually end up changing anything about the tempo as this game continues, as Dragon will just be taken off the back of this one. Because the back had been gained by Kingme. He had priority of the wave. You can't really beat him in trades if you're Shallow, because over time, especially with double longsword and lethal tempo, you're never winning that extended trade up against the likes of the Xayah. So they have to pull Othguric into bottom lane to make sure they can actually, free this Tristana from the laning phase. They don't get the kill on her, which is painful, and they lose Dragon. So it is first blood onto the likes of this Hecarim, who goes for those Lucidity boots very quickly, but you still have to pay attention to the fact that those Dragon stacking is going back to the side of IC, and that this top lane, again, still is pretty rough, and Prankuru is definitely doing very, very well for himself.
And stacking up those Dragons means that IC get to play so much more aggressively this game compared to last game, where Drury was able to get those first two. And then in that period where they weren't winning fights, you saw them take a very defensive playstyle and essentially just turtle in their base for, 15 minutes? And that's what ended up in our 33-minute game. This time, if IC is a similar early game, but they get the Dragons, we could see this one being over in 25 minutes if they are, again, knocking on inhibitor doors at that 20-minute mark. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. IC are certainly set up to run over this game just like last one, but at the current state, it's actually the gold lead in favor of Drury because of that bot lane, and we don't want to count them out of this one just yet, despite the pressure certainly being against them. As Cinemonster walks forward, he takes a bit of damage. The exhaust going to come through to try to mitigate it, but the wave is not there. Shallow takes a lot of feathers to the face. A flash forward from Kingme, but he's one auto away. That minion will eat the hook that was destined for the ADC. Oh, and now we're going to cut to the top lane as the Hecarim walks into the wrong brush. He had no idea what was waiting for him on the other side, and he's going to get sent back to base. Express trip, as the Herald will now be the objective for Illinois College.
I'm pretty sure outside of that Dragon, Timmy Tam's just got a 401k, a family, a couple of cousins in this top side, because this has been ridiculous. So Othguric can't step here to defend at all for Tsundere Rage, who is again continuing to lose gold and effectiveness. Are you seeing that right there? Did you see that? He's on 4 gold per minion. 4 gold per minion because of how much he's farmed to this point.
I mean, it's one thing to be 30 CS down, but when that CS isn't even as valuable.
We just noticed. Oh, that's so painful.
Ouch.
How many minions of gold did he lose? How many? Oh no.
He is down 900 gold from just
Oh.
that 30 CS disadvantage.
That's so painful. Oh my goodness. And you have to think like, okay, you know, Pantheon was support for so long, so the recommended item might have actually been there, and that might have just been an honest mistake. But catching it this late has just
Correct.
destroyed your chances. Yeah, actually almost died the tower.
He almost goes down as he recklessly just dives under the mid lane turret. And thankfully for Tsundere, now he's going to, be rid of that crutch. He's going to be getting full effectiveness for that gold. But you got to think, how much better could this lane have been for the man if he just had that full access to all the gold? That serrated Dirk might be a little bit closer to something like that, that Edge of Night. But I things have not, like you said, things have not changed. Illinois College are still dominating the top lane, and you can't change the past. You just got to look forward here.
The Pantheon now, unfortunately, for a champion that's so predicated on having so much of their power into the early game, to lose that much to start the game he might as well have not been there for like the first 5 minutes and missed the first like 7-8 waves or something like that, as the gold just wasn't there. They haven't been able to play to bot side at all either, because there's just been so much defense on top side. They haven't been able to push too well. They got the 1 kill onto King Me like they did last game, but it's another kind of slower paced early game here. I do think that's fine for Tristana.
Hang on. Cinemonster takes that hook in. King Me isn't under too much threat right now. He has the Galio coming in, but the teleport is going to find him, force him to use his ultimate. Their egg is still there for Nivea, but she's in a 1v4. There's nobody to help her out. And Baymax will just TP in to die. It's 2 kills, none traded back for Drury, and Prankuru is looking to make it more. He's in a 1v2, though. They might be able to burst him out. He is forced to flash away. But now the rest of the team is here for the re-engage. Prankuru going to find the kill, and they're chasing down Shallow. Timmy Tam going to force him all the way back to the tier 2. And the Rift Herald will help them take down the first brick.
Yeah, first tower on the bottom side, 2 kills, maybe a third now, actually, if Shallow... Okay, didn't actually get tagged by that Q.
You can't step up that far, buddy.
Not at all. Then you have mid lane also actually getting shoved up by Savaro, who's been able to pull a couple of minion waves and about 2.5 tower plates off that. Not to mention, Dragon's coming up. So all of this rubber band coming off of the fact that they just defend this bot lane play. As Baymax went down, you had Sinmaster go down, so you had a couple of kills. Second Dragon going to go into the pocket of IC. And the trade-off is, mid laner for top laner exchanging 2 plates apiece. But again, Pantheon's so far down, that gold means almost nothing at this point for a champion who's probably just dead in the water. So now,
Cinemonster, that is 2 hooks in a row that I don't think he quite meant to take, and has resulted in some seriously negative plays here for Drury University. So, yeah, I mean, that one feels bad. Maybe we'll put the Thresh back on the practice list for a couple more weeks.
Perhaps. At least you got to be a little bit more careful with what your Q is going to end up looking like. Because right there, like, I get the idea of the Q, especially if you can get the flay over the wall, but using your Q to go into the pit is just a clear mistake. As I don't know if it's mental issues that are coming out here from the side, where they just, like, again, you had Tsundere Rage buy that support item to start, that Q right there from Cinemouster. It seems like maybe they got shook a little bit, and for a team that needs to be really rock solid coming into the final game of the season to qualify for playoffs, Drury is looking remarkably shaken in the second game.
And even just the fact that they're making these last-minute roster swaps in the last game that they get to fight for the playoffs does show that perhaps they're a bit shaken up. Cinemonster caught out again. He is warding a little bit too far there. Shallow is going to jump to safety thanks to that lantern. Cinemonster is at least able to keep his ADC safe before he goes. But now Savar is looking to turn this one around. I mean, look at that. They're just running away. No even attempt to trade back damage. Drury knows they've been had. And Illinois College is all too happy to collect. It's going to be Cold Cottage picking up the kills there. The supports need a little bit of extra appreciation every once in a while.
When do I get my wits end Braum again? I just want Kraken Slayer Braum. Wait a minute, Kraken Slayer Braum actually would be kind of nuts. But
this is the game.
This would be the game for it, I think, if anything. But really, really good stuff. Aggressing against bottom side, and even if that bottom play doesn't work out the way where you end up getting 3 and now 3 kills eventually, you still get mid tower with King Me if they go down there to defend against the play after the TPs are committed. And top side is still just completely owned by this team. It feels like there is nowhere that IC is restricted from going. which is really weird to say 15 minutes into the game. They're up about 6.5 or 6,000 gold here as well. So just every advantage that could possibly be there for IC is just continuing to flood ahead in this game.
Yeah, and Drury don't have the luxury of those early Drakes either. So 10 minutes from now, we are going to be looking at down the barrel of a Illinois college who has access to the entire map that will include a Baron, a Dragon Soul, which we will be looking at an Infernal Soul this time around. So Ocean into the Infernal. Really good RNG for Illinois College today. And they're going to have a much easier time closing this one out, I believe.
They should, yes. As the only problem that could stand in their way in terms of finishing this game is just that, like, a Nivea exists. If you put a wall against a wave and then you press your ultimate button, then a wave is usually just gone. The damage isn't there. That requires some dive potential, but again, when you've got Prankuru, when you've got Savara, and you've got Timmy Tam and Koala to frontline, there is still possibility they can just jump on top of a Nivea at any point and deny her from accessing the wave and just clearing that one away. Especially with how far down in this game Drury is, I think that's very difficult for them to try to accomplish in pretty much any regard, stalling the wave. So, like you said, I don't think you necessarily need to go 4 Drakes. You could very easily take this to that point, though. Once you're on Infernal Soul, there's very little chance of coming back here on the side of Drury.
I want to make one of those flow charts, Rebel, that asks the question at the top, do you need access to the backline? And then it's going to have one arrow, or if it's no, then whatever. It's going to, if the other arrow is yes, buy Turbo Chemtake. You can see Illinois College, they have Turbo Chemtake, they have backline access. It's as easy as that. So, I mean, this Nivea, even on top of the Udyr, when you factor in, like you said, Prankuru, the Galio, there's so many ways for them to threaten the Nivea, and because... Oh no, Tsundere is going to be found in a 1v1. Well, let's see if he's been able to catch up in gold. No, he's not even going to try. He's just farming. He knows that he's not going to win that 1v1, and he's just trying to pick up as many CS as he can. I feel for that.
I do too. Like I said, if that's an honest mistake, that's such a tough one to realize late into the game. Is it cripples off your gold value so effective. Like you said, we saw only 2 minions get brought down and be 4 gold. And what I'm assuming happened was Tsundere Rage bought that support item, didn't think it was actually like a mistake. He thought he had bought something normal. And it was only once that gold value started to drop to like 12 and 10 and then sub 10, and you're like, wait a minute, what happened? And then he sees that he bought it, and he's like, oh my goodness. Which at that point, you probably should just immediately backed off the wave, given up an entire wave, because you're basically doing that with the support item anyway. But ended up sticking around until it was 4 gold per minion, which is just a complete waste, which is, like I said, for a champion like Pantheon, that ruined the early game process. And now you see Prankuru is on a point where there's not even a chance of taking that one-on-one in the side lane. As at 18 minutes into the game, Dragon's going to get taken. That's going to be Soul Point as well here from the side of IC.
And it just feels bad, really. In this game, we were starting to think, man, maybe there's a way that Drury can pull out this wacky lane swap and weird strat with the Anivia going to Baymax, and he's returning to the mid lane. And I was all excited for there to be, even if it didn't work, this ingenuity. But for this to just be a straight up mistake, and we'll see Tsundere die here again. But to even have a matchup that we expected Illinois College to win, end up in a win because of a silly mistake like that, it feels a lot less satisfying for them. And I'm sure it feels like Drury has been robbed of, that chance to fight for their last playoff chance.
Do you remember back in like the LCS Academy days when they had 6 teams and the playoff teams, which were the top 4, would end up going on to compete for a spot, and Team Liquid was playing for their spot up against another team? I think it was Apex Academy at the time, and Piglet accidentally locked in Rammus support, and they had to play.
I remember this actually.
Yes, it was a fair amount of time ago, but that game by Team Liquid Academy was actually the difference of them not making it in with a lot of their Academy players. Now, good of the amount of those players are still around and they still play a professional, but it's a mistake like that just haunts players, and it ruins just some competitiveness. Neither team feels satisfied after the game, and it's really upsetting to lose in that fashion. And for Tsundere, I'm not trying to bully him because it's an honest mistake. It's nothing you've done wrong, but the entire side of Drury is just going to be like smacking themselves in the head thinking about all the mistakes they made all season after this one, given just how bad of a mistake that was that cost them a game potentially.
Yeah, and it's not like this is academy. I mean, you're making a mistake in the Midwest Esports Conference. How do you come back from that? If you're a team like Drury University, because everybody knows that this is the top, just premier pinnacle of League of Legends in North America. So really disappointing to see from Drury. Honestly, at the end of the day.
Yes. It is. But again, not harping on that any longer. It just feels like this game has started to slow to a crawl because Drury is accepting their fate and not able to find anything on the map, even though Kurik, who had maybe some semblance of an early game with his Ignite, is even slowed down to very low pace. Frank Kuru is able to live anywhere he wants on the map. Kingme's doing perfectly fine. This Braum has not started building aggressively yet, but maybe that would be an exciting time. But again, in 2.5 minutes when this next Infernal Drake starts, if you want to fight it, you can try. You probably lose. It's not impossible to win. It's a 9,000 gold lead, which is really tough to overcome, but not impossible. We've seen it before. But even this Baron buff probably just goes over. They can shove in waves, and now you have just no response left on the map as they were able to do anything they'd like at the end of this game.
Yeah, that joke didn't quite land as I wanted it to. I'm not upset with Drury. It's a feel-bad mistake, but things do happen, and I definitely still applaud Drury for looking for changes, big changes, even in their roster coming down to the very last game. Not a lot of teams would even be willing to say, okay, let's put our former mid laner turn top laner back into the mid lane and put our former support turn mid laner into the top lane to try to pick up this one last win. They're really doing everything they can. So I'm proud of Drury to even make it this far and have a chance to go on to the playoffs. And even we'll see if they're able to defend this push here, because the Baron picked up from Illinois College. They're on that soul point. Okay. That doomsday scenario that we set up 10 minutes ago has come to be. There really feels like there isn't a lot of time left. And come 25, 26 minutes, we're going to be expecting Illinois College to end this one out. If the game goes on any longer than that, I would honestly chalk it up to a Drury win. Maybe not a win in the books, but a win in the heart, in the feels. They're looking for a play here. Tsundere Rage is coming behind the team, and they've got Illinois College split, but Kingme, he's up front doing the damage. He doesn't need anybody to protect him. The Thresh has gone down too. Frankuru is tanking up the tower, and Tsundere Rage, he was in a backline 1v1ing the jungler the entire time. No! Kingme! He falls. The last tower shot stacked up. Takes him down.
Timmy Tam franked him so hard right there. Did you see he stopped right outside the tower range, and then it started getting
didn't catch it, no.
Oh my goodness. That was such a hard
Timmy Tam, how could you? We trusted you. Kingme trusted you. But Illinois College will, at the end of it all, walk away with the victory. The final Nexus turret falls. They have a couple of minions, and I feel like they probably could have ended it. They could probably do whatever they want at this point, but they want to go grab that soul first. They'll let Drury play for a couple of minutes long.
At least give them one last fight here, right? At least try and do something here at the very last second to try to make sure.
One last use of the Turbo Chem Tank.
One last use of the Turbo Chem Tank. One last use of the NWO Ultimate. One last potential Gale Force usage here for Shallow during the course of the season, because this probably just ends it. TP's coming in. This is the 5-on-5. This is their chance. The
double TP being channeled. Prankuru and Savara both back, and they've rejoined the fight. 4-man knock up there from Prankuru, and he just tears the team fight apart. Baymax is going to fall. He has no egg to revive, and Cinemonster has been left all on his lonesome 1v4. There's nothing that Thresh can do. The Infernal Soul grabbed after the ace. And Illinois College, they've gotten everything there is to get on Summoner's Rift. There's nothing left but the Nexus, I guess, in the towers and the side lanes, but just end the game already. Illinois College will lock themselves in the final playoff spot. And Drury University will have to watch from the sidelines, but it was a good run, and they gave us some good games to watch here today.
It's been a season and a half here in the MEC, and it's kind of a bad taste in your mouth for Drury to end this off. I think there's plenty that they have to build on towards the end of the season, but I'm not going to dwell on this anymore because we talked about it enough for the game. So instead, let's just talk about just how good IC was during the series. Because, man, they kind of dominated across the board in a number of different fashions in every single lane, most of the time during their team fights. Their setup was really good. Their drafts were pretty nasty. I really like what we saw from IC heading into playoffs today.
Yeah, and I'll continue to say it. I think King Me and Cold Cottage Koala are the best upgrade Illinois College could have brought in. Last year, they had a lot of struggles around their bot side. It was a very obvious top diff in every single game they played, but in the games they lost, it was usually to a team like Grandview or Robert Morris, where their bot lane just couldn't stand up to the pressure, and Prankuru couldn't get far enough ahead to deal with the bot lane carries. Now, though, King Me and Cold Cottage finding massive advantages for themselves in the bot lane and continuing to allow Timmy Tam to just be all Prankuru all the time in his gameplay and not really need a lot of resources down there is the best possible scenario for them. And it's really evolved into a pretty well-oiled machine. You can see when they have the good matchups and when they're feeling confident, Illinois College end the game just like that. And there really ever wasn't a sense that they were in danger at threat of losing these games. So I feel like Illinois College, they're ready for playoffs. They're ready to go in and start challenging the top of the table. And I'm very curious because this isn't a team that I expected to be fighting for the last playoff spot. This is the team that I would hoped would actually challenge Grandview and kind of replace Robert Morris as our second place team. So I have a lot of high expectations for them going into playoffs, and I feel like they still have a little bit of ground to cover.
Their team seems to be coming together at least. Also, in the chat, we were having people say that King Me and Cold Cottage Koala were the same as last year. No. Audio said they weren't. No, they're different. If they're the same, change your name because now you're different. Okay, audio said so. But yeah, you're right. I think coming into our final split, Midwest Esports has got a lot of competitors. I think most importantly is like the people that are contesting up against Grandview. It's very difficult to access Grandview right now just because of how really amazing they are. But the kind of the distance between like the teams like Purdue, like Illinois, like Mizzou, even like Drury, like we saw today, isn't really usually that crazy. That's why we saw this had a hectic play for this last bit of a playoff spot at the end of the season. And I'm really hyped to see what happens coming into this playoff. As you get to see who gets to test Grandview for that finale and who gets to actually come out against them. And we're calling it as a Grandview race right now. They went undefeated in the regular season, so they are the favorites. I'm not saying that they're just completely unfallible and no one's able to beat them, but for the moment, just this competition between everyone else is what I'm far more excited for at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I think the question just has to be who's going to take it to Grandview University? They've been undefeated up to this point. They have not dropped a single game. They are by and far away our number one team in the league. But now it is up to either Purdue, Illinois College, to try to take some games to them, or yeah, Purdue, Illinois College, to try to take the games to Grandview. Will they be able to do it? Illinois College looks pretty good here today, but they've still got a couple of playoffs matches to go through. That's all that we've got for you guys here tonight, though. It's been a wonderful regular season to spend with you. Thank you, Rebel, for coming on to the desk to share these games with me today. And we're going to have some exciting playoff matches for you guys coming up. So stay tuned to all things Midwest Esports Conference, and we'll see you next time.